Welcome to the Scenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Welcome to the deep dive. We take the sensational stuff, cut through all that noise, and really try to get to the powerful facts hiding underneath. Today, we're plunging into this world of biology that's so bizarre. Honestly, it sounds like science fiction. We're talking about cordyceps.
Yeah, and if you've been anywhere near pop culture lately, you probably know cordyceps by its chilling nickname, the zombie fungus. You know, this organism that takes over an insect host, turns it into a biological puppet. That's definitely the headline grabber.
It really is.
Yeah.
But we're going to immediately pivot from, the zombie apocalypse scenario straight to ancient Chinese royalty, which I admit sounds like quite the tonal whiplash for a deep dive, but it actually sums up the duality of this fungus perfectly. For centuries, cordyceps has been revered, like a cornerstone in traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM.
Exactly. It has this incredible, 1,000-year history of use in Tibetan and Chinese medicine, not as some horror movie prop, but as a really prized adaptogen. That's a substance used to restore that deep foundational energy, promote longevity, support overall mental resilience.
Right. So our mission today is to cut through all that hype and give you the essential understanding.
Yeah.
The history, the really weird biology, and the modern research showing how cordyceps might actually support physical endurance, cognitive clarity, and, long-term health.
Okay, let's start with the biology, because it really does set the stage for everything else. When we say cordyceps, we're actually talking about a whole genus of parasitic fungi. There are over 400 species, but the star, the one everyone talks about, is Cordyceps sinensis. And traditionally, it's only found at these extremely high altitudes in the Himalayas, places like Nepal, Tibet, Bhutan.
And its life cycle is it's the ultimate creepy nature documentary moment, isn't it? The fungus spores, they attach to an insect host. Usually it's a specific type of caterpillar, a ghost moth caterpillar. They invade its body, replace the host's tissues, and basically take control, mind and body.
Yeah, it's wild. The fungus then sort of guides the insect to a spot that's just perfect for spore dispersal. And once it's fully matured inside, this stalk-like fruiting body, the mushroom part, literally sprouts right out of the corpse.
Yeah.
It sounds gruesome, I know, but ecologically, it serves this vital function. It's like nature's own version of pest control in those really delicate mountain ecosystems.
And the traditional name, the Chinese name, Dongtong Xia Cao, it translates to winter worm, summer grass, which I think perfectly captures that transformation.
It really does. That name describes the life cycle and its value perfectly. And because harvesting it meant finding these specific dead caterpillars on these remote Himalayan slopes, it was incredibly rare, really difficult to source. So consequently, it was reserved pretty much only for the wealthy elite and the emperor himself.
Wow.
It was classified as both a vital tonic herb and, as we said, a potent adaptogen, helping the body cope with stress, restore that internal balance.
It's just fascinating that royalty somehow understood the effects, even back then. But now we need the why. Okay, let's unpack this. How does modern biochemistry explain this ancient vitality boost? What are the key compounds science has actually isolated now?
Well, advances in science, thankfully, have let us pinpoint exactly why cordyceps works, right down to the cellular level. The therapeutic power seems to be concentrated in several specific compounds. Let's start with the namesake, cordycepin. It's actually a derivative of adenosine.
Okay, wait, adenosine.
Yeah.
That rings a bell. That's related to ATP, right? Which is like the fundamental energy currency for our cells.
Precisely, you got it. Cordycepin is this powerhouse molecule. Research shows it has anti-inflammatory effects, maybe even anti-aging potential. But what's really fascinating is its specific mechanism. Cordycepin seems to be able to disrupt the genetic processes of certain harmful or, let's say, aberrant cells. It basically prevents their unwanted growth and replication.
Okay, so if adenosine is like a basic building block for life, cordycepin is sort of like a specialized key, one that can jam the lock on specific rogue cells, stopping them from multiplying. That sounds like it could have a really profound systemic impact, way beyond just being like a vitamin.
That's actually a great analogy. It really is acting as a potent cellular modulator. Then, okay, let's look at the immune system angle. For that, we're talking about beta-glucans.
Beta-glucans.
Oh.
Okay, that sounds technical. For the listener, what are these complex sugars actually doing inside our body, practically speaking?
Think of them like crucial signals. They actively help activate and mobilize your immune system. Specifically, they stimulate macrophages.
Macrophages. White blood cells.
Exactly. They're a type of essential white blood cell. You can think of them as the body's internal security team, identifying and destroying pathogens, cellular debris, that kind of thing.
Huh. So it's not just like speeding up the system generally, it's more like sending in specific reinforcements, making the existing security detail sharper, more responsive.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. And then finally, we have the polysaccharides. These are potent, antioxidant-rich carbohydrates. What they do is directly scavenge free radicals. This action reduces oxidative stress.
Which is linked to aging and chronic diseases, right?
Exactly. Oxidative stress is seen as a major underlying factor in aging and many chronic conditions.
Okay, so if we connect all those dots, the anti-inflammatory action, the immune modulation, the antioxidant power, it suddenly makes perfect sense why traditional Chinese medicine saw this as such a holistic tonic. These mechanisms really target chronic inflammation, support immune resilience, and maybe even help with things like metabolic disorders.
Right, and moving from that microscopic cellular level up to the macroscopic, let's talk performance. Because cordyceps gained massive modern attention in the athletic community, and for good reason, it's actually one of its most studied uses today, improving physical stamina and endurance.
Yeah, this must be where that ATP mechanism you mentioned really comes into play. Multiple studies suggest cordyceps can directly enhance cellular energy production. The ATP, which, we use for pretty much every physical and mental task we do.
And importantly, this isn't like a short-term stimulant like caffeine, which kind of forces an action, right? Cordyceps seems to empower the system to work more efficiently. So instead of that temporary, often jittery boost, it helps you utilize oxygen more effectively. We can actually measure this by looking at improvements in VO2 max.
Improving VO2 max, that means delaying that feeling of hitting the wall, basically, where your body just can't keep up with the oxygen demand during exercise.
Precisely. It lets you operate at a higher level of efficiency for longer. It delays muscle fatigue during prolonged, high-intensity work. But, for our audience, for the learner, this translates directly to mental stamina, too.
Oh, okay.
The brain uses a huge percentage of your body's oxygen and energy. So better oxygen utilization means potentially preventing that notorious afternoon energy crash right when you need to stay focused the most.
That makes it incredibly attractive for anyone involved in high-intensity stuff, whether that's physical, like sports, or purely mental, like deep study or work. But you mentioned it's not just the performance during the activity. It's also about the recovery afterward.
Yes, the regenerative potential seems pretty significant. Those same anti-inflammatory mechanisms that protect your cells also appear to speed up muscle repair after exertion. There's even some research indicating it might stimulate the production of stem cells involved in muscle repair, helping you bounce back faster from intense training or even just long periods of, say, deep concentration.
So it's acting like a systemic regulator and a physical powerhouse. It really ties back perfectly to those traditional uses, doesn't it? Boosting energy, reducing fatigue, supporting those deep regulatory organs like the kidneys and lungs.
Exactly. So now let's bring it fully back to the brain, which is kind of the central processor for our audience here. If it's boosting oxygen efficiency and energy production, well, we should see a pretty powerful impact on mental clarity and focus, too.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. You hear it mentioned, but it's often not categorized alongside traditional nootropics, things like lion's mane or bacopa. But it seems like it's quickly becoming this foundational element in the brain health and biohacking communities. What specific benefits are actually surfacing in the research beyond just, feeling more energetic?
Well, those mechanisms we just talked about, the enhanced ATP, the better oxygenation, they translate quite directly into improved brain function. So firstly, we see neuroprotection. Those antioxidants and the anti-inflammatory action help shield your delicate brain cells from the chronic damage caused by stress, maybe toxins, or just the natural aging process.
This is kind of protecting the hardware, letting it run cleaner for longer. What about actual processing, like memory retrieval or speed?
That seems to tie into the blood flow aspect. Enhanced circulation means your brain is consistently well oxygenated, it's supplied with nutrients, and that's absolutely crucial for complex tasks. Things like deep concentration, forming long-term memories. When you're studying hard or doing really focused work, inflammation and poor oxygen flow are basically the enemies of focus and actually retaining information.
Yeah, I definitely feel that distinct brain fog when I'm running low on fuel or feeling stressed and probably not breathing properly.
Right. So by improving energy metabolism and and reducing that inflammation specifically in the brain, cordyceps seems to help clear away that fogginess. And on top of that, there's some preliminary evidence looking at mood stabilization. It shows potential influence on the synthesis of key neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine.
Ah, okay.
Which, as you know, are vital for things like motivation, drive, and maintaining a positive mood.
That's a really crucial link, because better focus and less brain fog aren't just about raw speed, they're about mental endurance, right? During those long periods of high mental load. It sounds like it helps the brain maintain peak performance for longer without that typical cognitive decline you feel after a few hours.
Exactly. It's providing foundational support, basically allowing you to maximize the time you spend learning or working just by ensuring the environment inside your head is more optimal.
Okay, but thinking back to how rare that original Cordyceps sinensis was, is there any concern that the cultivated version we see everywhere now might be, less potent or maybe less effective? That feels like a skeptical question any smart consumer would ask.
That's a completely fair question, and it brings us right to the crucial market reality check. Wild harvested Cordyceps sinensis, it's still almost impossible to source ethically, and it's exorbitantly expensive. We're talking potentially thousands of dollars per kilogram. It's reserved for highly specialized luxury markets or very traditional practitioners.
Okay, so how on earth are we finding it in our, morning mushroom coffee blends and capsules everywhere?
Well, what we're mostly finding is Cordyceps militaris. This is the cultivated, sustainable hero of the modern cordyceps story. C. militaris is grown affordably, under controlled, sterile lab conditions, often using substrates like rice or soy. And here's the key part. Modern research actually shows that well-cultivated C. militaris extracts often contain higher and more consistent levels of that key active compound, cordycepin, than you typically find in the wild C. sinensis.
No kidding. So in this case, science and cultivation might have actually improved upon the wild source, offering a more reliable and affordable product for the average person.
Absolutely. It's kind of a win-win for the consumer and for sustainability. Now, regarding safety, cultivated forms of C. militaris are generally considered safe for most healthy adults, assuming you're taking it in moderate, consistent doses.
Right, but the safety checks are always paramount. What are the necessary warnings people need to keep in mind?
Sure. Side effects are typically mild and pretty rare. Mostly things like mild digestive discomfort, maybe some nausea, dry mouth, or diarrhea. However, because it does stimulate the immune system, cordyceps is generally not recommended for people with existing autoimmune diseases, things like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, MS.
Because it could potentially make things worse.
Potentially, yes, or interfere with medications. So, also not recommended for those currently taking immunosuppressant drugs.
Okay.
And as always, if you are pregnant, breastfeeding, or managing any serious chronic illness, it's absolutely essential to consult your healthcare provider before introducing any new herbal supplement like this. Standard disclaimer, but really important.
Got it. Absolutely crucial.
And one final point on usage. Remember, the effects are gradual. This isn't like taking an instant energy shot.
Well,
because you're working on balancing your system, supporting foundational energy, most users tend to notice tangible improvements in energy, focus, or recovery within maybe 2 to 4 weeks of consistent daily use, not overnight.
okay, so patience and consistency are key. So we've basically taken the story from this bizarre parasitic zombie fungus that was once reserved only for emperors, all the way to a scientifically validated adaptogen that's pretty accessible to modern learners, athletes, anyone really.
Yeah, I think the core takeaway is this. Cordyceps offers this really unique blend of benefits. It's rooted in deep tradition, but also supported by some pretty compelling cellular science. It seems to simultaneously target physical endurance, immune function, and mental clarity, all through these foundational pathways involving energy and inflammation.
So whether you're an athlete looking for that edge in recovery, or maybe a student trying to maximize your cognitive output during exams, or really just anyone focused on long-term systemic wellness, this deep dive hopefully highlights why Cordyceps has earned its reputation as this kind of ancient powerhouse, but one that's relevant today.
You know, while we often highlight Cordyceps for its energizing effect, that sort of boosting part of the story, I think its adaptogenic role is maybe even more interesting, helping manage stress that might indirectly support better sleep quality over time, which in turn leads to much more balanced, sustainable energy levels overall, not just peaks and troughs.
That's a really interesting final thought. Think about that. Is the biggest benefit maybe less about boosting energy directly and more about creating this state of internal balance, this equilibrium? that allows your own natural energy to just flow more freely, unimpeded. Maybe that's the real measure of long-term vitality we should be aiming for.
Thanks for tuning in to the Scenario Podcast. Don't forget to visit scenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.